Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're plunging into the really fascinating history of May 1st. Now, you might just see it as another day, maybe a holiday, maybe not, but trust me, there's a surprisingly rich and, well, interconnected story woven into this single date.
Exactly. And we've pulled together a really diverse set of sources for this one.
Yeah.
I mean, everything from the Asian Labor Review and Irish Myths to Wikipedia, Catalyst Planet, AP News, even Southern Living.
Right.
We're going to explore how these, ancient celebrations connect with modern labor movements and even some, charming local customs.
The goal really is to help see the surprising ways these seemingly different threads are actually, well, part of the same tapestry, isn't it?
That's the idea.
Okay, let's get right into it because this kind of blew my mind. Most of us, I think, immediately think of International Workers' Day when we hear May 1st.
The labor connection.
Yeah, but what's incredible is that its origins go way back to pre-Christian times, to festivals centered around fertility and the, much anticipated arrival of summer.
It's amazing, isn't it? We're going to explore how those ancient vibes still kind of resonate in how May 1st is observed globally today.
So let's journey back. Where do we start? Beltane.
Let's start right there with the ancient Celtic festival Beltane. This was a huge occasion, traditionally celebrated on the evening of April 30th and continuing right into May 1st.
Okay.
Think of it as marking a really key turning point in the year, sort of the halfway mark between spring and summer. It was all about welcoming the warmer, brighter months.
Beltane. It sounds so, ancient and almost mystical. What does the name itself actually mean? Is it clear?
Well, that's a really insightful question, and the truth is, even the experts aren't completely sure. It's a bit debated.
Oh, really?
Yeah. The most widely accepted idea, supported by historians like Peter Beresford-Ellis, is that it translates to Fires of Bel.
Fires of Bel, okay.
Bel is thought to have been a significant Celtic deity associated with, life, healing, possibly even the sun god Belinus. However, there are other theories out there. Some link it to Giltina, who was actually a Lithuanian goddess of death, which is quite different.
Wow, yeah.
Others even suggest a connection to the Phoenician god, though that's a more debated idea. It just highlights how the meanings of these ancient traditions can sometimes get lost or, reinterpreted over time.
So even the very name is a bit of a puzzle. Fascinating. But regardless of the exact meaning, fire seems, central. It's right there in the name, possibly.
Oh, absolutely essential. Huge bonfires were lit, and these symbolize purification and new beginnings.
Right, getting rid of the old.
Exactly. And one really fascinating ritual involved driving cattle through the flames, or maybe between two fires.
Seriously, through the fire?
Yeah, it was believed to cleanse them and offer protection as they moved to their summer pastures.
Okay. Oh.
And interestingly, families would often extinguish their own household fires.
Put them all out.
And then relight them from these communal sacred fires of Bel. Or sometimes from a fire kindled by druids on a hilltop, one dedicated to the sun. It was a real community-wide act of renewal.
Wow, a total reset of fire for everyone. That's a powerful image. And our sources mention this tradition in Ireland of the May bush. How does that connect? Is that related to the fires?
It's seen as a direct continuation, yeah. The May bush tradition in Ireland, where people decorate whitethorn or maybe gorse bushes with brightly painted eggshells, colorful ribbons, flowers. That's on May 1st.
Okay.
It's viewed as carrying on those ancient Beltane fire traditions. In some areas, they'd even place small candles on the May bush.
Ah, bringing the fire back in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there are even accounts of these bushes actually being burned in the evening. Plus, the bonfires themselves also persisted in parts of Ireland, clearly linking this more modern custom back to those ancient bright fires below Tenia of Beltane.
It's incredible how these echoes, these sort of remnants of the past, can still be seen today, just adapted. And speaking of echoes, the Irish Myths article draws a connection between Beltane and Walpurgis Night. How do those two relate?
Yeah, that's another interesting layer. What's particularly interesting here is how pagan and Christian traditions often intertwined over time.
Right, you see that a lot.
Walpurgis Night, which is celebrated on April 30th, the eve of May Day, is thought to have evolved from a merging of the ancient pagan Beltane with the commemoration of St. Walpurga.
St. Walpurga.
Yeah, a British missionary who was canonized in Germany around 870 CE. So you have this significant ancient Celtic festival, essentially blending with Germanic May Day celebrations and then acquiring this Christian association.
So Celtic, Germanic, Christian, all layering onto the same date.
It's a great illustration of how cultures and belief systems interact and shape traditions over centuries.
Okay, so from these Celtic fire festivals, let's shift focus a bit. There are Roman connections too, right? Floralia.
Yes, definitely. If we look at the broader picture of ancient spring festivals around the same time, we find Floralia. This is the Roman festival dedicated to Flora, the goddess of flowers.
Flora, goddess of flowers. Makes sense for spring.
Exactly. And originally it was held from April 28th to May 3rd, so it pretty much covers May 1st. It was essentially their ancient way of celebrating May Day.
So what did the Romans actually do for Floralia? Was it just about flowers?
Well, flowers were key, but the main event was the Ludi Floralis, which translates to floral games.
Games, like athletic games.
Sort of. They involved theatrical performances, ludis canici, with plays, mimes, and somewhat surprisingly to modern ears, sometimes included naked actresses or prostitutes.
Wow, okay. That's different from Beltane's bonfires.
Yeah, a different vibe. And following these performances, there were circus games held in arenas, like the Circus Maximus. And these games were often financed by officials called aediles. It was partly a way for them to gain popularity with the public, So a mix of religious observance, public entertainment, and maybe even a bit of political maneuvering.
Naked actresses and scattering beans. I saw something about beans. That certainly sounds like a lively festival. What was the symbolism behind all of that?
Right, the beans too. The symbolism really connects back to those themes of fertility and renewal that we saw with Beltane, just expressed differently.
Okay.
Wearing floral wreaths was common, much like in later May Day celebrations we might recognize.
Like May Queens and garlands.
Precisely. And in the Circus Maximus, they would release animals, hares, and goats, apparently, seen as fertile and scatter beans. Both acts were intended to encourage fertility and ensure a bountiful harvest.
Beans for fertility.
Seems so. It all underscores that fundamental human desire for the Earth's continued productivity and, well, a prosperous year ahead. It seems it started way back, 240 or 238 BC, fell out of favor, and then got brought back in 173 BC because people were worried about damage to blossoms.
Interesting. So these festivals had their own histories too. Okay, so we've got Celtic purification fires, Roman fertility games. It really seems May 1st has long been tied to these themes of renewal, abundance, the start of summer.
Definitely.
But how did it then become so strongly linked to labor movements? That feels like a really significant shift in meaning.
It is a huge shift, and that's a crucial point. It highlights how historical events and evolving social consciousness can totally redefine the significance of Islamic dates.
Right.
The rise of labor movements and the adoption of May 1st as International Workers' Day is a powerful example of exactly this process. We see early signs of worker organization, for instance. Way back in 1905, there was a joint strike by Chinese and Russian railway workers in northeastern China.
Chinese and Russian workers together, 1905.
Yeah, pretty remarkable. And they actually succeeded in securing the release of arrested Russian workers. It's a significant early instance of cross-border solidarity within the labor movement.
Yeah. That's incredible. And what about specific calls for workers' rights within China itself during that period? Was that happening too?
Oh, yes. By 1920, the movement had gained considerable traction there. There were widespread demonstrations in various Chinese cities, Beijing, Shanghai, Guangzhou, others.
What were they asking for?
Workers were demanding fundamental rights, like an 8-hour workday and just basic respect in the workplace. Shanghai, which was a major industrial hub, held a really significant commemoration of International Labor Day that year.
International Labor Day, they called it that then.
They did, and they even issued the Manifesto of Shanghai Workers, which was a pretty bold declaration of their collective power and aspirations. You had key early communist leaders like Chen Duxiu and Li Dazhao playing a vital role in mobilizing these workers, through writings, organizing efforts, advocacy.
So while these labor movements were building steam in Asia, there was also this growing push for the 8-hour day happening over in North America, right? Now that seems parallel.
Precisely. The 8-hour day movement really gathered momentum in the United States and Canada during the 1880s. That decade was crucial.
Okay.
Prominent figures like Matthew Maguire, he was a machinist, and Peter J. Maguire of the American Federation of Labor, they're often credited with first proposing a specific Labor Day holiday dedicated to advocating for this fundamental right, a standard 8-hour workday.
8 hours for work, 8 hours for rest, 8 hours for what we will. That slogan.
That's the one. It became a rallying cry.
And this eventually leads us, unfortunately, to the pivotal and tragically impactful event of the Haymarket Affair in Chicago.
Yes, the Haymarket Affair or Haymarket Riot or Massacre depending on the perspective, in Chicago in 1886 was a critical turning point.
What exactly happened?
Well, workers were peacefully protesting for an 8-hour workday, part of a national strike that started May 1st. There was a clash with police a couple of days later, then a protest rally on May 4th in Haymarket Square. During that rally, police moved in to disperse the crowd, and someone still unknown who threw a bomb at the police. It exploded, police fired back, and it resulted in multiple deaths, both police and civilians, and many injuries.
And the trials afterwards were controversial, bro.
Hugely controversial. 8 anarchist leaders were convicted, several were executed, despite little evidence connecting them directly to the bombing. This event became this potent and enduring symbol for the international labor movement.
A symbol of what exactly?
Both the ongoing struggle for workers' rights, like the 8-hour day, and the potential for violent state suppression of those movements. It's really striking how a specific tragic event, rooted in that struggle for a shorter workday, became a global symbol uniting workers.
It shows how specific historical moments can just crystallize these broader human aspirations for fairness, I guess.
Absolutely.
And it was in the aftermath of Haymarket that May 1st was formally recognized internationally as a day for labor. How did that specific connection get made?
So 3 years later, in 1889, the International Socialist Congress met in Paris. It was the centenary of the French Revolution, actually.
Right.
And they made a formal declaration that May 1st would be observed as an international day for labor demonstrations. This decision was explicitly a commemoration of the Haymarket Affair and the ongoing worldwide fight for the 8-hour day.
So directly linking it back to Chicago.
Directly. It was intended as a powerful way to unite workers across different nations in a shared cause, and importantly, to honor the sacrifices of those like the Haymarket martyrs who had fought for better working conditions.
So May 1st undergoes this incredible transformation from ancient spring festivals, Beltane, Floralia, to a globally recognized day of labor advocacy. It's really remarkable how history can layer such profound and, frankly, different meanings onto a single date.
It really is.
So how is May Day actually observed around the world now in our modern era? It sounds like it's not just one thing everywhere.
You're absolutely right. The ways May Day is observed vary quite a bit, depending on the country and its specific history and politics.
Okay.
While many nations, you mentioned Algeria, Angola, Egypt, Cuba, Ecuador, the Philippines, Russia, many others recognize May 1st as International Workers' Day, often with public holidays, big marches, demonstrations.
Right, the classic image.
Other countries have designated different dates for their Labor Day, like Dominica and St. Kitts and Nevis, celebrated on the first Monday in May.
But not necessarily May 1st.
Exactly. And of course, the United States and Canada famously observe Labor Day on the first Monday in September. Even within Australia, the date can vary by state.
I didn't realize Australia varied. And what about places where it's May 1st, but maybe not a huge official holiday?
Good point. Some countries, like Denmark and Finland, observe May Day, often with rallies, political speeches, various events, but it's not an official public holiday. So people might still go to work, but the day is marked.
Okay. And we're seeing that these May Day events, wherever and whenever they happen, continue to reflect really pressing current labor issues, right? The AP news article from just last year, 2023, had some telling examples.
Definitely. What's particularly noteworthy is how May Day continues to serve as this platform for addressing contemporary concerns. It's not just historical commemoration.
Like what?
Well, in France, in 2023, there were huge protests against the government's decision to raise the retirement age. That was a massive issue.
Right, I remember seeing that.
Across various Asian countries, South Korea, the Philippines, Taiwan, workers organized big rallies demanding higher salaries, better working conditions, things we still see debated everywhere.
Yeah, perennial issues.
Even in Japan, where May Day events were held without pandemic restrictions for the first time in 4 years, a major focus was on demanding wage increases to cope with the rising cost of living.
Inflation hitting everywhere.
Exactly. And there was also criticism voiced there about increased defense spending, arguing it was coming at the expense of social welfare programs. So it gets tied into broader political debates, too.
And that prevailing political climate you mentioned, it really influences how May Day can even be observed, doesn't it? Sometimes it's restricted.
Absolutely. That same AP article highlighted how in Pakistan and Turkey in 2023, heightened political tensions led to actual restrictions on May Day rallies. Many events were forced indoors or banned in key public squares.
Wow.
In Russia, the ongoing war in Ukraine cast a noticeable shadow. May Day events in Moscow were significantly scaled back compared to the massive communist-era parades, or even just pre-war years.
So external events really impact it.
Definitely. And even in Brazil, the focus of some 2023 May Day observances included the specific challenges faced by part-time and informal workers, reflecting, the changing nature of the global workforce. It adapts.
So while the core spirit of advocating for workers' rights on May 1st remains very much alive in many places, the specific ways that spirit manifests are constantly adapting to the unique economic and political realities of different nations.
Well put, yes.
But is it only about labor now? Or do we still see those older pre-labor movement traditions persisting in some forms? Back to the flowers and fires.
That's a really important observation. The ancient roots haven't entirely vanished. They coexist, or sometimes blend.
How so?
Well, in Greece, for instance, May 1st is called Protomagia. It's still a significant celebration of the arrival of spring. It also has elements of honoring the dead, interestingly. But you see singing, dancing around bonfire.
Bonfires again.
Yes, and children playfully leaping over the flames, echoing Beltane, perhaps?
And Italy.
Italy hosts the largest free music event in Europe, the May Day concert in Rome. Huge crowds. But it's also just a popular time for people to enjoy the beaches, visit cultural sites, clearly echoing that ancient connection to celebrating spring and being outdoors.
So more of a general celebration of the season there alongside the music.
That's like it.
And Scotland seems to have a particularly vibrant and quite intentional revival of those older traditions with the Beltane Fire Festival in Edinburgh. That sounds amazing.
It really does. Since the 1980s, there's been this conscious and, frankly, quite enthusiastic revival of traditional Beltane celebrations in Scotland, often incorporating contemporary artistic interpretations.
So not just preserving, but reinterpreting.
Exactly. The Edinburgh Festival, held annually on Calton Hill on April 30th, is a huge attraction, draws thousands of people.
What happens there?
It features a dramatic, torch-lit procession led by symbolic figures like the Green Man and the May Queen.
The May Queen.
Her again. Followed by captivating stage performances, drumming, acrobatics, and culminating in the lighting of a large bonfire. It's effectively bringing those ancient rituals back to life, but for a modern audience.
It makes you wonder, doesn't it, about this modern desire we seem to have to reconnect with these older rhythms and traditions, maybe in an increasingly secular or disconnected world.
That's a fascinating thought. Why the revival now?
Yeah. Now, the May Queen. She keeps popping up in our sources, linking back to these older celebrations. What's her specific story and significance? Is she just a symbol?
She's largely symbolic now, yes, but she's a historical figure who personifies the spirit of May Day. Some believe her origins might trace back to ancient forms of tree worship, perhaps connected to a figure known as the Summer Queen in England during the High Middle Ages.
Tree worship? Interesting.
Yeah. And we have historical records, like the diary of a Londoner named Henry Mackin from 1557, mentioning the Lord and the Lady of the May as central figures in May Day games and festivities.
So she had a male counterpart, too?
Often, yes. Later on, she appears in literature, probably most famously in Tennyson's poem The May Queen. While the tradition of actually electing a local May Queen has faded in many communities, it still persists in some places.
What does she represent now in those places?
Generally, the beauty, vitality, and renewal associated with springtime. She's sometimes still accompanied by a May King who might be dressed in green to symbolize, springtime and fertility, linking back to those Green Man-type figures.
Right. And then there's this really charming, almost nostalgic tradition mentioned in Southern Living May Day baskets. That feels like a completely different vibe again, very personal.
It really does. It's a lovely custom. The tradition of secretly preparing small baskets filled with delightful treats and fresh flowers and leaving them on the doorsteps of neighbors and loved ones on the morning of May 1st.
Secretly. Like a surprise.
Yeah, you'd hang it on the doorknob, knock, and then run away. The idea was for the recipient to find this unexpected gift.
That's sweet.
It really is. The article actually suggests it's a tradition worth actively reviving because it's such a simple yet meaningful way to welcome the month of May and foster a sense of community spirit and, well, unexpected joy.
A more intimate, personal way of marking the day compared to big marches or ancient fire festivals.
Exactly. It connects person to person.
So, okay. As you can clearly see, May 1st is far, far more than just a day off work for many, or just another date on the calendar. It's this incredibly rich tapestry, isn't it? Woven together from ancient beliefs about the Earth's rebirth.
The Beltane and Floralia roots.
The hard-fought historical struggles for workers' rights. The Haymarket legacy.
And these enduring cultural traditions like the May Queen or the baskets.
Yeah.
That continue to adapt and evolve even now.
Absolutely. And what's particularly fascinating, I think, is recognizing how these seemingly disparate threads, the ancient bonfires of Beltane, the vibrant floral games of Floralia, and the, impactful modern marches for fair wages, they all speak to fundamental and enduring human desires.
Desires for what?
Well, for prosperity, for community, for a better future. Whether it's hoping for a successful harvest in ancient times, celebrating the abundance of summer, or demanding fair treatment and dignity in the workplace today, there's a consistent underlying theme, isn't there? Striving for something better.
That's a great way to put it, a thread of hope and striving.
Yeah.
So here's a thought to leave everyone with. Consider this. As we navigate our modern lives, often feeling maybe a bit disconnected from these ancient rhythms, from the seasons, maybe even from the historical struggles that got us things like the weekend.
What can we learn from the enduring significance of celebrating both the bounty of the earth and the dignity of human labor on this single, very significant day?
That's a deep question.
Perhaps it serves as a powerful reminder to cultivate a deeper appreciation for both the natural world around us and for the essential contributions of, everyone who shapes our society through their work.
It really makes you think about how we might find new ways maybe to connect with these profound and layered meanings of May 1st in our own contemporary lives, beyond just, noting the date.
Definitely something to mull over.